Old friends, new friends, all of our family. We'll be together at Christmas. Hey, do you know what Christmas special that came from? That song? I'll give you a hint. It's the Christmas special. That's all I'm going to give you because if anybody wants to go on the Twitter at Break a Brain or go on Facebook and look up The Broken Brain, then hit me up and let me know what it is. Tell you what, the first person who names the Christmas special that is from, honor system here, you can Google it if you want, but whatever. The first person who names it is going to get a prize, a secret prize this time of year where many people exchange gifts. Christmas specials is the order of the day. As I mentioned in the last broadcast, I am rerunning a few holiday time, winter holiday time specials. This one is especially focused on Christmas specials. Chris Revill and I talked about Christmas specials and, what those are. So, what they're like. Took a little deep dive into that. So, hope you enjoy this. It aired originally December 23rd, 2016. Don't judge too harshly, just like the 2015 one. I know you all were kind to me, knowing I was a much younger and dumber person. And sound quality, maybe it's not quite as good. Maybe it's better. Gosh, don't tell me that. The Broken Brain. Welcome to one of the three Christmas specials for the Broken Brain this year. It's a little more Christmas heavy than usual. I had one that just came out talking about our more serious toned episode where Lee Messersmith and I talk about managing your relationships with loved ones over the holidays. And then there's the one where Mike Deniston and I are sort of taking a big old Christmas drop kick on the movie The Family Guy. And now, for a more lighthearted Christmas specially mood, a very special guest, Chris Revill's returning to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. And did you mean The Family Man, not The Family Guy?
Yes, both. I think we take a shot at The Family Guy, too, somewhere in there.
Oh, who doesn't?
If I remember correctly. I don't know. I have to finish editing it and see if that survived. But I wanted to talk about Christmas specials. And
I love them so much.
Yeah, that's why I thought I'd have you on. So you were just saying off mic all these secrets that I thought I'd share. No,
sure,
not
yes.
really.
Yes, many of them.
You mentioned that you're more into it this year, the Christmas specials and such.
Yeah. Well, this is the first year. My wife is pregnant with a little girl.
Yes, congratulations.
So I think that helps. Thank you so much.
That's my voice. Congratulations. I've Facebook congratulated you, but.
Oh yeah, thanks. And then I won't dive too deep, but and then last couple of years we had been struggling with infertility. So the last 2 Christmases ago, we were like, oh, that sucks. Last Christmas, it was just so depressed because we were just terrified someone's going to be like, when are you having kids? So now that this year, and then I think I lost my Christmas spirit around 14, like most people. And maybe if you choose to have kids, it doesn't come back until then. But this year, feel like a wave of depression cloud had been lifting off of us.
Oh, that's
so we
cool.
just went full on Christmas spirit. And it's so great. And I love television. I'm so happy you asked me on for this because I barely watch Christmas movies. But goddamn, if I don't find every single TV show I love and find their Christmas specials for every season and watch them. That's what I've been doing every night when I come home from work, and it's been so much fun. So name a show, I probably watched it.
One of the things about Christmas specials that I remember, and I love the way technology is now, especially with our lives being so busy and everything, you can pull up anything on Netflix, Amazon, whatever. And we can say, hey, let's watch The Grinch. Boom, there it is.
Oh, great one, yeah.
And I love that. But do you remember, as I do, that moment where you're like, you either heard a rumor or happened to look in the TV guide or something like, hey, Charlie Brown's Christmas is on tonight or something as a kid.
And you had to wait for it.
You had to wait. And then it would have the word special that would rotate and it would be like or whatever. I think that's the intro to the Muppet Show. But still, it would say some little ditty. And then it would open up, the show, and you'd be like, oh, it's something special because it said the word special.
My family, I remember we would gather around the room where the TV is and the Christmas tree in the corner, and we would wait, and it would be Charlie Brown's Christmas and Garfield Christmas doubleheader. and
That's a
like
great one.
cry your eyes out because they're the saddest fucking things in the world. But the Garfield one especially is really beautiful. Have you ever seen that one?
I do. I remember that's the one where they go home to the farm. If that's the one I'm
They
thinking
go to the
of.
farm, and then
Yeah.
Garfield finds the letters that hit the is it John Arbuckle's mother's.
It's his
So probably his
grandmother.
father's.
It's his late grandfather wrote these love letters to his
When he was
grandmother.
in the war,
I
probably?
think so. Yeah, when he couldn't be with her, and she
just-
ends
oh,
up.
God,
Yeah,
the emotion.
it's kind of weird because Garfield was always like kind of a snarky cartoon, where Garfield's
Yeah.
like just he's the. It's sort of the smartest guy in the room, snark-fueled comedy for kids, where he's just like, ugh. Odie sucks, and I'm gonna mail Nermal to Abu Dhabi or whatever. And
That's exactly what happened. That was the plot line, I'm pretty sure. And Odie's just the optimist, but it was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love that special.
yeah, and then it takes this turn where it's like really has heart, and that gets into what makes something a Christmas special. Obviously a lot
Heart.
of things have Christmas themes. Go ahead, say that again.
I think it's heart. I mean, honestly, the best Christmas specials are sad.
Yeah,
The best ones because I mean, so like two of my favorites are, which is historically this is fascinating to me, is the Simpsons episode. The first episode of the Simpsons is a Christmas episode, which I believe it was supposed to be a spin-off from the Tracy Ullman show as a one-time Christmas thing, and now we're almost 30 years later and it's still on.
as
Yeah.
is the Tracy Ullman show. They both have survived.
Oh, it's
luckily.
coming back. Yeah. But it's going to be Tracy. Did you know that it's going to be called the Tracy Ullman's show?
Is that for real?
On HBO.
There's a real Tracy Ullman show reboot. I didn't know that.
Yeah, on
I
HBO.
was just being snarky.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, I thought you knew that. Yeah, she took some time off, but
Oh,
yeah, but
okay.
it's the episode where Homer is poor. He doesn't get his Christmas bonus. Bart gets the tattoo, so they have to use the money savings. Patty and Selma embarrass Homer for not being able to provide for his family, and then they end up getting Santa's little helper, and it's
At the Greyhound
such a-
race, yeah. There's the scene
beautiful.
where isn't he walking through the parking lot looking for winning tickets on the ground? Basically, it's like, And so you're
I
right.
think-
There's a heartbreaking thing to that we don't associate. Usually, you think Simpsons just silly comedy.
Not me, but
Well,
I'm
no,
not
I mean
normal.
not me either. But I think that's what a lot of people think. And
Yeah.
then you look at that, and there is, like you said, there's a lot of heart. And even it's interesting you bring in not just the fact that it has heart, but it has sadness, which
It's
is
struggle. I mean,
interesting.
December.
Yeah.
Varying on where you live in the country, like I live in the Northeast. I live in Rhode Island. It is literally snowing right now, and it is freezing, and it is dark out at like 4, and it is the most depressing time of year. And I think that's why we use Christmas to try to counterbalance all the darkness. Like there's a line in Community about that, about their amazing Christmas special about the Christmas miracle is that the shortest days and the darkest nights can somehow bring out the best in people, or something like that. But it's really beautiful.
Yeah. No,
I just said a lot.
That's interesting, and it goes back to kind of the roots that you get. I could see elements of sort of both of the roots of Christmas. Christmas itself, obviously, the Christian roots had come from struggle, sadness, death, overcoming death, all that, and then
Jesus.
right, exactly, and one of the reasons that they picked. As far as my understanding is, any history buffs out there can tweet all of your corrections at Let's Chat with Revill and Friends. Make sure to tweet all your angry tweets at the guest.
Just to me.
That's
Yes,
the rule
please
on
do
this
that.
show. But I believe the reason that they assigned, because no one knew when Jesus' birth was for realsies, and I think one of the reasons they assigned it to this time of year was there was a pagan tradition of
the
celebration,
solstice,
right? The winter solstice, and they would celebrate with fire and candles and lights as a way of reminding themselves that the world may be trying to kill us right now, but we're going to survive. We're going to make it through until the summer, until the spring.
It gets cold, man. It sucks. It was negative. It was like the we had a polar vortex yesterday in real time in Northeast. It was like 20 degrees out with a wind chill of negative something. It's like Alaska
geez.
cold.
Yeah. And I know around here in Utah where I live, I think it's supposed to be 6 degrees tonight or something like that. Yeah.
So why would you not want to watch a nice a nice TV show that involves sitting around a fire and talking about heartwarming things? It warms you up.
So there's an interesting wrinkle here. I don't know if you're familiar with Emmett Otter's Christmas. I think you can
The Muppet,
YouTube that
correct?
now. Yeah, it's a Muppet.
Yeah,
it's an old
yeah,
Muppet
Muppet
Christmas show. Actually, two sort of not as popular ones that I really like are Emmett Otter's Christmas Jug Time Band, I think is what. Anyway, if you look at Emmett Otter, I think you can YouTube it, like I said, or it might be on Netflix. The other one is a Jim Henson special called The Christmas Toy. It was a one-off. I mean, the characters were, as far as I know, not used. Many people kind of look at it as a coincidental thematic precursor to Toy Story, or some people might more cynically
about that.
Is there? I didn't know there was a lawsuit.
Maybe, but that's such that's not an original idea that toys come alive when you leave the room. So who knows?
Yeah, and the idea there being that the toys come alive, and a real interesting thing, getting to what you're saying there, is there's this struggle and suffering, and also another S word: sadness, struggle, suffering, sacrifice. Once again, going back to the Christian roots of the holiday too, you've got this idea where in this case, you've got the toys are in this really weird universe where toys come alive when you leave the room. And if you find the toy somewhere other than where you left the toy, it dies. And if you remember,
oh my God,
incredibly
that's
dark.
So sad.
I know they basically won't wake up again so if like you're one of the toys and you're cruising down the hallway and somebody finds you, they don't call it death, they call it being frozen forever. They just
my God.
And there's this pile of toys kind of off on the side of the playroom, where they kind of just throw them over there, and they have like a little sad song, and like, our friends are frozen forever. And so the whole premise of this show, of course, is that the tiger, who was the big Christmas gift last year for the girl in the family, he thinks he's the Christmas toy, and he needs to get back to get wrapped up under the tree so that he can have this great experience again of being found.
Oh, yeah.
And then he learns that one of his friends actually was the Christmas toy the year before, and that there's a new Christmas toy, and there's this old bear who like was the Christmas toy way back when. And it's like this really, I mean, as far as universe building, I mean, there's high stakes, life or death stakes, and he has friends who will like sacrifice themselves for him, and he's very selfish, and he has this conversion. And then in the end, the frozen toys sort of come back to life.
A rebirth, if you will.
Exactly, yeah. So
drops the mic, walks out.
Exactly. It's Chris Revill, I'm out.
We've saved Christmas.
So anyway, I think it's interesting when we look at things like this and we think, oh, it's just a silly little thing, even if it's like a sitcom, like you say, and they're like, oh, let's just do the regular 3 acts, whatever Dan Harmon's rules are for sitcoms that everybody uses, where it's like, a character wants a thing, they go through some journey and hilarity trying to get the thing, they either get the thing or don't get the thing, or learn that they can live without the thing.
Huh.
But you apply that into this suffering, sadness, redemption kind of a thing. And it actually, I remember that being a little kid, being like really scared. These toys are going to die, and now they're resurrected, and it's like this happy kind of like happy, sad journey that you've gone on with these characters. So
have you ever seen the Community Christmas episodes?
I probably have. Now I'm trying to remember. I'm sure because I saw the first. I saw all of them up until Dan Aykroyd left. I didn't stop for that reason. I just didn't see him as much after.
Oh yeah, the second season, the Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, when it's all in stop motion animation.
Oh yes,
it's like their throwback to the old Rudolph and those like old kind of style cartoons where they're really depressing, but again, everything you said, sweet, sacrificing, and
it's a
sadness.
Hallucination, essentially, right? Isn't he having a hallucinatory experience?
I'll be honest. If I'm in the right mood, that's that end of that episode at the very end. It shows a reflection of the television, and it's all of them watching TV together. Can bring a tear to my eye because it's just the most beautiful episode. It's such a throwback to an homage, if you will, to the original, like those old depressing ones. But like I think like the ones that aren't a little sad or have any humanity, I'm not going back to watch. I can't think of anything I don't watch. But if they're not like, there's a reason that Charlie Brown was made in the 50s, and you and I will still watch it every year.
And that's the thing I think is interesting, is not only do you see these things have nostalgia, and you could definitely argue.
I think certain of them, but I think Charlie Brown's beat nostalgia because I grew up with it, but it's been around so long. I think it's past nostalgia because it's not just nostalgia for nostalgic's sake. It's just quality.
Yeah, and it's actually an interesting thing is that it's one of those that is overtly hitting on the spiritual component of Christmas too. You have the part where Linus talks about the birth of Jesus, and really kind of ties in this idea. Charlie Brown itself as a storyline, as a story arc, is always very sad. I remember that as a kid, just being like, man, give Charlie Brown a break sometime, please.
He's just so suppressed. Yeah. Hey, did you ever see the Sesame Street Christmas special? When Big Bird gets locked outside in the cold and they sing Feliz Navidad?
No,
it was one that we watched a lot as a kid. It's also very sad, I think. And I've recently got a record player for my birthday this year, and now I've been like collecting records. And then I found the soundtrack on vinyl, and I got that for my little daughter for when she's here, and been listening to it. And I remember really great because I grew up in a very multicultural area. So when I grew up with Christmas, we always had Merry Christmas, and Kwanzaa wasn't really a thing, or Hanukkah actually, but we always had to learn all the songs in English and Spanish. So I knew all like Feliz Navidad and all that stuff. But the Sesame, that's another one. Like Big Bird gets like trapped outside and almost freezes to death, and then they come and save him.
Well, you look at some of the go-to classics like Frosty. You have where Frosty dies and he melts to death, and presumably that little girl, right? And once again, there's a resurrection component there, not so subtle, I guess, but the little girl ostensibly has to watch him die. Watch him melt to death. Before he's reformatted. And so once again, more than just kind of silly. What about Rudolph? Let's hit on Rudolph for a minute.
So sad.
It's really, really hits on rejection. And I remember the song Misfits. It was
made for Misfits.
Yeah.
Is that the Island of Misfits Toys?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And that Rudolph was made for the kids who didn't fit in school. And I think they must have realized that more people feel like an outcast than the popular kid, and that's what Rudolph was for, and that's why everyone always identified with Rudolph. But then the thing that made him different was actually the thing that made him unique and special.
And if you think about that, and you think about that for the time, that's a very interesting message for being made so long ago. And the rejection that they show there is so deep, because you've got like his own parents can't quite deal with this. And even Santa, that's the thing I do remember growing up thinking like, wow, Santa's even kind of
a dick.
Santa's kind of in that one. He's like, what's with this nose? Gross.
I mean, and that can be applied to like homosexuality or anything that is shunned on the moral of a country, varying on what time frame.
Yeah, no, and that's what I think. Going back to that heart that gives it legs and a glowing nose to cut its way through the worst winter storm.
But he tries to hide it. Remember, he puts the thing on his nose.
He goes through trying to hide who he is,
and like being a beard or whatever.
Yeah, this is a good metaphor. And I think that's one of the things that it's adaptable to so many things. When they sing that song about why am I such a misfit. What happens to me, I mean, I remember that resonates with me as like a kid. I think that helped shape some of the ways that I felt about not fitting in, and some of the ways I felt about those that didn't fit in. It's like, oh wow, they have something special to offer, and they had, just that little message that you get that's like, oh yeah, there's something special about people in some ways, particularly when they're different, and that they need support. And acceptance.
And different doesn't mean bad, is what the message. But which sucks about that is Rudolph should have been like, nah, fuck you. You didn't need me. Now you need me.
Well, and so, that is interesting too, because it was made at a time when it was not we weren't as maybe cynical too. I'm not sure. And of course, I guess it's a kid's show. But so when he comes back and gives everybody that chance and is forgiving, you can extend that metaphor, because I know a lot of people who have been rejected over time that. And let's go even with your metaphor of being gay and coming back around and finding out that, the first reaction many people that I know had was literally their worst reaction, and now they've mellowed and I can forgive them and they can accept me, and, and you can apply it to whatever. But that's, That's
kind of what you want from people is for those who are, I guess, quote unquote, intolerant, that if you could tolerate them and teach, and maybe then they can come around to the other side, like, I mean, isn't that like that's all completely what like Nelson Mandela was preaching? It's all apartheid, forgiveness on both sides, and like it's a wow, this is a deep show.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the ultra.
Go Rudolph.
There is that line in A Miracle on 34th Street, right, where the remake of Miracle on 34th Street, which is the only one that this show officially recognizes.
People hate that one for some reason, but
Really?
I don't think I liked either. And then I watched the original recently, and it was very good. And I don't remember liking the. I don't think I ever really remember watching the original.
But the in the remake, you got I think it's Christian Attenborough, the Jurassic Park guy who plays Santa Claus. And he has that great line, "Life will find a way." No, wait, that's his Jurassic Park character.
That's Jurassic
His
Park.
line, he tries to explain to someone what he represents as Santa Claus, and they're thinking it's when he dresses up as Santa Claus, and he's thinking it's when he is Santa Claus. But he tells him, I'm a symbol of the ability that we have at times to set aside our selfish desires that rule the majority of our lives and to transcend those things, something like that.
So he's Batman. So Batman.
Yeah, so he's Batman without the violence.
Never seen him in the same room.
Without as much violence. He does hit one guy with it.
But no, that is an interesting fact of like that movie does hit on the symbolism, and that whole movie, the original, is just a very thinly veiled version of religious of God, essentially. And
sure, faith is essentially the message there.
And I guess I'm not anymore, but I had been a very cynical atheist when I was younger, and then kind of seeing like, well, there is a lot of beauty and positivity within faith, and it's a beautiful thing, and for a lot of people, it's a great thing.
And it's an interesting thing that I think people tie into with stuff like this. When you get specific about faith, people get divisive at times. And so when you're making something like this, I guess the challenge of making a Christmas special that reaches out is there's a lot of people who celebrate Christmas culturally, and I'm speaking. This is probably showing my bubble. I'm speaking mostly of the culture within the United States. Is that there's a very Americanized holiday within Christmas, of where those that celebrate Christmas, it's a cultural thing as much as anything else, and I think it's interesting where it is something where people can come together regardless of the specificity of beliefs. I think everybody wants to be able to have at least faith in their fellow man, faith in
humans,
and an agreement at times to, what's the line from Christmas Carol where Scrooge's nephew says, "Acknowledge one another as fellow passengers to the grave," I think is what it is. Something like, "Hey, we're all human beings here. We're all trying to get along." And to quote Batman, sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded.
Absolutely, right?
Sometimes.
And why not?
Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded.
It is Batman. But I think that's a good point, and I think that's good too, because like I can watch that movie and not get like, man, this is about something I don't believe in. It's just like, this is sweet, and they're not saying Jesus or anything. It could be any religion, and you can watch that and be like, yeah, and even God. I mean, if you came to my home and saw the way we celebrated Christmas, you would, and if you were like an alien, you would have no idea this is a religious holiday. We murder a tree and put a bunch of shit on it and watch Christmas specials. And I complain whenever there's Jesus in a song. My wife's like, "Yeah, it's Christmas." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm just teasing, but so,
there is a
we're no Kirk Cameron Saves Christmas movies watching or anything, but
see, I don't know. Unaware, yeah. See there, and that's the fun thing, by the way, about Christmas specials, is that there's always more out there. There's Handcuffed for the Holidays with Melissa Joan Hart and the guy from Saved by the Bell, or whatever.
What's funny? I thought about Elf was great. Maybe looking back at it, it's a great movie. It's actually one of my favorite Christmas movies. But it came out in a post 9/11 America when people needed to feel safe about the world and New York again. And like, it's kind of interesting to watch that movie now. Like, oh, it's a perfect Christmas movie. But that came out 2002, 2003.
Alf? We're talking about the alien?
ELF. Elf.
Oh, Elf. I thought you said Alf. I was thinking of the Alf Christmas special when Alf was on the air, which we'll get into Elf. But by the way, the Alf Christmas special.
Is it good?
It contains one of my father's favorite lines on television that he always quotes, which is when the family's about to go out caroling, and Alf, their little alien roommate, is like, "You're going caroling and you're taking your son with you?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "Well, on my home planet, we would never take a child caroling." And they said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Well, you'd have to know Carol." Anyway, so sorry. But yeah, okay, so Elf.
We always somehow talk about Elf whenever we talk. I love it. He's back in Pog formation.
He's back in Pog. The movie Elf, I think. So let's talk about that one, because I think that's one that, like you said, is fairly recent, but has catapulted in status to be one of the classics for a lot of people.
It's there's a little sadness. It's everything we mentioned before, but it's unbridled, beautiful optimism. And there's something about that. It has great actors. It has Bob Newhart, for God's sake. It has America's Dad.
It's right.
It has Zooey Deschanel with bangs, which always throws you off. It's got the music, and it might be a perfect movie.
Yes.
I mean, that is. We watched that movie Thanksgiving night with my parents, my brother, sister-in-law, 2.5-year-old. He was running around, and every single one of us, from like the little kids to the adults, love that movie. Like everyone loves Elf. Like my grandmother and like a 6-year-old can watch Elf together and love. And there's not like there's layers of it that only adults get. There's just something about it. It's just a genuinely sweet, funny movie with just the right amount of sadness and sweetness.
Yeah, and they do a great job of bringing out that kind of optimistic faith, as we've been talking about before, right? Where here's Elf, who's just Buddy, I guess is his actual name in the movie. Not the character's name is not Elf, but he brings that optimism wherever he goes, and he's kind of one of the things that's kind of fun is that he's like, yeah, I'm just down. I'm just on board with whatever we're doing. If it's like, and one of the things that they do is, to a certain extent, infantilizes him, where he's like a child in some ways. But you don't get the idea that the elves are little kids in this. They're just kind of like optimistic, like you said. They're just right.
Because he's a human.
Right, because he's a human. And the probably one of the things that people do identify with is that sometimes I think we wish we could have that optimism, and we wish we could just be in a dark, kind of scary-looking mailroom and make a new best friend.
I think I've been called out for still having some of that childlike optimism that's never faded for me. I don't know why, and I think it's the extrovert in me that just loves any experience where I can make a new friend. And it makes life much better. I like working jobs where I work with people. Even on the worst day, there's something good about it because I'll get to have a conversation with someone nice.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me. Even if it's like just like a barista being like extra nice on a bad day, turns me right around.
It is interesting. I agree with that. I think that's a real powerful thing that you run into. I will also say that Elf is one that people might look at it once again and say, oh, it's this little silly Christmas story. But I actually usually, I'll tell you where I start to tear up, which look forward to this, by the way, as part of having a child, is that now everything makes me cry all the time if it's at all meaningful.
I've heard that, and I'm kind of already there. I don't have a kid, so
I know worried. You're a sensitive guy anyway, which is one of the reasons I like you.
Does not help.
But they get to this part in the end of Elf where they are singing as a way to show Christmas spirit. And the great thing about the way they do this is not everybody's in on the secret. Not everybody knows that Santa's stranded and we have to rescue him. They just start singing, and you see the crowd actually just start singing. And the thing that's really interesting there's a lot that's interesting about the characters, but my experience is that I don't know. To me, that touches me, and I like actually start crying when they all are singing this Christmas Carol together, especially those that don't know, because I feel like that we're all deep down. Most of us are like one step away from being like, I'd love to be part of a thing. Like I'd love to be part of a warm moment with everyone, And if somebody was brave enough to start singing, a lot of us would sing along.
And it would take me about 60 people to sing before I could start.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. It's like when you watch a flash mob and there's a part of you that kind of wants to be a part of it, but someone else. I don't want to start one, but I would love to be in a crowd of others doing it. So the attention. It's like I go into weddings because not everyone's looking at me, and I can just dance and have fun.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Disappear into the crowd and just everyone else is doing it. It gets that like peer pressure, and it feels good. And like I like to let loose by dancing.
It reminds me when you said that. I remember like my wedding reception. We had it was in this little thing in a park, and there was these twinkle lights hanging up places, and it got dark and all that. And I remember seeing some of my family, some of my wife's family, and all that, and friends and stuff, and just thinking boy, everybody just kind of hanging out together. That's kind of a cool thing that doesn't, particularly with all of those people who live in different parts of the country.
Weddings and funerals, only thing that time you see everyone, and you're not going to be at one of them.
Yeah. That's why you go to as many as you can of other people's. It's this togetherness piece that I think also ties in with the holiday. We all want to be part of something, like you said.
Oh, I'm such a sucker. I try to go to. I mean, I live in a small city, and we have a lot of great community events. So I try to go to as much of that stuff. And I grew up in a place I didn't like. It wasn't bad. It's just suburban, boring, urbanish city of Connecticut. And then I went to school in Vermont, which was very rural. And now I live in Providence, which is a beautiful, diverse city. And there's always something going on. And we have this pretty well-known thing called water fire, which is they have these fires on top of the river and they play music, and it's very huge. They did a wintertime one last year, and they had the Rhode Island gay man chorus there outside singing, and it's below freezing, but yet we all went outside to be together and enjoy this moment. And I felt like I was in a rom-com. It was just like so special. And that's the other part of Christmas. It's freezing, but you'll still go outside if there's something special enough. Like I'll go to like the tree lighting at City Hall because there's other people around and it's special.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And I think that some of the things that capture that message, it's exactly just what you said. So we need to film that scene of you at this thing next year. Let's plan that for the YouTube channel. Let's chat with Revill.
They didn't have one this year. If they have it again next year, I'll have to video it.
We'll have to definitely. We'll get that kick-started this year.
Do you have any other Christmas specials you love? Because I was trying to find like Home Improvement, Roseanne, and Murphy Brown, but they're not in streaming. I really those are the ones I remember. Roseanne, anything I love. They had the best specials.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We used to watch basically all the ones we could get a hold of when I was growing up. The Grinch is probably my favorite.
That's a good one.
That's another one that I tear up at the end when he reads the part of, Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. I know it's a silly little Dr. Seussy rhymey line, but it makes me get like
silly. He's anything but.
I know, but it makes me get I get teary every time like I watch that, and there's
Scrubs has a good one too.
It's the which one are you thinking of?
Season 1 where Turk loses his faith and he finds the star and the woman's giving birth under the tree and they play that song and I think it's a good time to reconnect to that childlike wonder and I'm such a sucker. I'm all about the commercialism of Christmas. Well, I guess it's the same thing as the wedding. It's the one time I see, not the one time, but it's like everyone in my family and my wife's family will travel from distances just to be together and have a meal and talk about how we don't see each other enough. And it's the worst time of year to travel, but I'll do anything to drive those 4 hours to be with everyone. But if it's like the middle of the summer and it's a barbecue,
yeah.
But like once you have this like added pressure that it's a holiday, we have to be together.
It
makes it more special.
There is a Muppets Christmas special that doesn't always get aired. It's the one where
Christmas Carol one?
No, Muppets Christmas Carol is actually probably one of my, if not my favorite rendition of A Christmas Carol because I love that story. But I actually really like the Muppet version the best.
I love Muppets.
Which is funny.
I was thinking about Christmas. It's also a good time that you can admit that you like musicals.
It's exactly. You can sneak that in. They did with the Muppets though. They did a Christmas special where it was just the straightforward Muppets from like the old Muppet Show, and they're just going to Fozzie's mom's house. It's this ranch, and it's like kind of snowed in, and they have this just I don't know. They just have this kind of like there's comedic storylines, of course, that are going throughout. But
is that on any of the DVDs? You think, or
and that's one that I don't see shown as much. But I remember it captured for me in a way. It's kind of like that Garfield one where it captures this essence of going home to a place. Going to Grandma and Grandpa's and everybody's there, or wherever you end up going, and that essence of travel, I think, is very important to that too, because once again there's sacrifice and then there's hardship to get there, and then when you do get there there's often some kind of fish out of water element to what's going on, and an ongoing struggle with showing those that you're with how much you care. So that's one that I remember watching. I'm
gonna have to find that. That sounds really beautiful.
There's an old Christmas special that we used to if there was ever one on, we would tape it on our old VHS, VCR, and eventually, after a few years, my siblings and I had like 3 VHS tapes filled with Christmas specials, and we would just watch those on that. And so they would always have the same commercials, of course, because they were fixed. It was a fixed point of history. And they had it was back when Ronald McDonald was frequently on the McDonald's commercials, and they would. And so sometimes we would watch and, kind of have fun with these ads where Ronald McDonald would just meet a kid who was walking and he's making a snowman and he'd do something magical and be like, the magic of the holidays from McDonald's or whatever.
I remember those.
I just remember those being, it was once again, there was a little bit of a feeling of camaraderie to be like, oh, it's the holidays and everyone's taking a minute to kind of notice that it's the holidays.
Yep. Do you want to know a fun fact about those old commercials?
Yes.
Grimace is a milkshake.
No way. Grimace is a milkshake?
He took a milkshake and turned it upside down. That's the shape of Grimace. And that's how he came to be. I just learned that, and it blew my mind. Big on the top, thin on the top. Big on bottom, thin on top. And I was like, oh, my God. My life will never be the same.
We got to... Okay, hashtag bring Grimace back. We got to start that.
Yeah, let's do it. Hashtag, and then be like, what's a Grimace?
What's Grimace?
Like, no one knows.
Who are these two old guys on the internet talking about Grimace? What?
Yeah, that's the entire internet. It's just everyone thinking
that's the...
I don't know if you... Actually, one of the most disgusting yet hilarious Christmas specials is South Park's Mr. Hanky Poo. Did you ever see those? I remember my brother and I, the first year we were old enough to come back from our family Christmas party and then still stay awake. That was the year that it aired. And we just couldn't
peripheral
handle
memory.
We could not handle Mr. Hanky Poo. It was like so gross, but it's so funny.
There was one. It was an old claymation style like Rudolph, called "The Life and Times of Santa Claus," and I've very rarely run into anyone who's seen it. We got it. I don't know if it was on the Disney Channel or if it was on. It was just some channel where they were showing a bunch of Christmas specials and they were running out, I think. And so my my brother and sister and I happened to tape it, and then so we watched it every year because it was on our Christmas tape. And we'd tell people like, "Yeah, The Life and Times of Santa Claus," and they'd be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" It was based off of a book apparently by L. Frank Baum, who wrote the Oz novels, The Wizard of Oz, all that. And there's people don't know this, but there's like 30 novels about Oz. So he would tell the story as if it was kind of magicified, where it starts out with these immortal beings living in a magic forest, and they find a human baby and they raise it, and he's this kind, person who loves children, and he, I think, invents toys, if I'm not mistaken, and then ends up becoming, the figure of Santa Claus, and it tells these adventures that he does, and in the end of the story, it's like the whole story starts with this council of these immortal beings, and there's this wind demon, and there's this elf king, and there's all these people, and they're basically voting on whether or not to grant Santa Claus immortality because he's about to die. They're like, tonight he's going to take a ride, he's going to deliver toys, and then he's going to die, but we could make him live forever, and then Santa Claus will always be around. And it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, nobody does.
That's that perfect age of VHS where you think it's a family tradition, but it's just like, in my case, my parents are just cheap and got stuff from the library. So we would just watch stuff that was bad and thought everyone, like, you all didn't watch this movie?
You all didn't watch this movie?
Or whatever.
Yeah. I remember that reminds me of our old stack of beta tapes where we watched like the movie The Wilderness Family and The Wilderness Family Part 2, and we're like, yeah, I remember that movie, and everyone's like, no, we do not remember that movie.
No, that didn't happen. It's like, even that was a classic in our home.
Netflix will not support your memories.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff doesn't make it over to the DVD digital age.
Yeah, and rightly so. Let's be honest. Some of it is like, cringeworthy. But, well, man, this is great. It's great it's always great to talk to you. But
I always love this.
Yeah, tell people where they can find you.
Sure. Well, my show is like Dwight's on the Core Temp Arts Network. I'm on Twitter at Let's Chat Podcast. We have a Facebook page, and that's all I have.
That's good, man. It's enough. Yeah, Let's Chat with Revill and Friends is one of the podcasts I subscribe to. Everybody really should go out there and hit subscribe.
Oh, thank you. I subscribe to Broken Brain as well, and we work in the field, and I listen to it sometimes for research, and I try to get all my coworkers to, and one of them finally did.
That's one of the things. And huge congrats, by the way, to you and your wife.
Thank you so much. We were very beyond excited, to the point where people do the, oh, you're not going to get any sleep. I say, shut up. Or in my head, I'm like...
Yeah, eventually you do again. But
yeah, I'm 32, so I guess we're a little bit older, so I think people also know that we wanted it. It wasn't like we slipped one past the goalie, like, fuck. we were very open to everyone. Well, after we conceived, well, the embryologist did a lot of the work. We told everyone it was IVF right off the bat, so no one gave us the finally talk because we were kind of worried about that.
You guys finally got around to it. It's like, yeah, dude, we've been trying for it. Why don't you back
Yeah,
off?
don't worry. We just spent about $8,000 and
good
2.5
advice.
years of pain.
Sort of good advice to everyone out there to kind of lay off telling other people how to plan their family. But but you guys are gonna be great, and and I'm super happy for you. And so
I'm gonna hit you up for dad advice. I heard you just say yes to everything.
Yeah, that's it. Just yes to everything. Yeah, that's my nutshell. my biggest dad mantra, I think I've mentioned on the show before, is in the back of my mind. I'm just try not to be a dick. That's like my biggest thing. And just try to be nice. Just be nice. That's what I try to tell myself. You can.
It was my brother, and he didn't mean this in a mean way, but he was like saying something like, one day she's gonna grow up and have a boyfriend, and not even thinking reflexively, I was like, or a girlfriend. And then my wife got really warmed by that, and I was like, yeah, that's the household she's gonna grow up in.
Yeah.
You can love whoever you want.
That's
and
cool.
as everyone's like, I don't want, she's gonna date one day. I already have her prepared for any guy who's like, oh my God, what are you gonna do when she's 18? And goes, I don't want her to miss out on the fundamental experiences of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Just totally be like the annoying progressive asshole to everyone who tries to give me shit. Like, hey, just want her to be happy.
That's pretty good. I'm an annoying progressive asshole dad. I'm an APA.
Yeah,
I like that though. I think I'm probably an APA as well. Instead of it's better than being like I have to feign interest in promoting violence towards anyone who's interested in my child. I'm going to have to murder whoever dates her,
Oh, my God. But then when she's 25, they'll get mad that she hasn't gotten married and had children yet, so I can be a granddad.
Exactly. So, no, it's a good time.
All the superhero stuff's popular now.
That's right.
I can't wait for little baby Ray.
Gives her, and they'll even get better by the time she gets bigger, hopefully.
I know. When she's a little baby for Halloween, I'm thinking either BB-8 or Ray or Wonder Woman.
Like that.
There's so many. Or Batman, whatever she wants.
Exactly. We will, we'll be back at you again soon. Happy holidays to everyone out there who celebrates some type of holiday. Merry Christmas if you're a Christmas person. And if not, then just happy Broken Brain, which is probably the highlight of your week if you don't celebrate other holidays.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back again soon. Thanks, Chris.